Federal investigators receiving serious backlash. The Inspector General of the Department of Justice offering a scathing rebuke of the FBI's handling of the sexual abuse case of disgraced gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar. This brings us to story number 4, investigating the investigators. Joining us now, former Trump advisor George Papadopoulos and former attorney to President Trump, Jenna Ellis. Great to see you panelists tonight. Jenna, I'd like to start with you. In the report released by the U.S. Inspector General, it said this, in part, quote, the FBI Indianapolis field office failed to respond to the Lawrence Gerard Nassar allegations with the utmost seriousness and urgency that the allegations deserved and required. Jenna, does that statement raise broader concerns about the FBI?
Of course it does, Emma. And the FBI has, of course, been in the spotlight broadly for these types of concerns, not just in the Larry Nassar case, but in so many other things concerning President Trump over the last 4 years, and very serious things that, of course, with James Comey and other issues with the Mueller investigation and so many other things, that the American people are losing confidence in this particular institution, but really in government institutions that are designed supposedly to secure our well-being. And so what the American people, I think, the broader concern here are recognizing is that these institutions are supposed to be citizen-led. That's the entire point of the founding of American government, is that we are supposed to be a citizen-led government. And now we have a government that's really just like any other, that is full of elitists who have other concerns and political objectives in mind, rather than simply securing and protecting the rights of the American people.
Well, you mentioned losing confidence in these institutions. Listen to this, a stunning report from Politico indicating Delaware's U.S. Attorney David Weiss, at the request of investigators beneath him, decided to pause the case against President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, before the 2020 elections. U.S. Attorney David Weiss was appointed by Donald Trump. George, I'll ask you here. Why would he wait until after the election to investigate Hunter Biden?
You know, in this country, Lady Justice is often depicted as wearing a blindfold or being blind. And the reason for that blindfold is because the rule of law is supposed to be applied equally and fairly without regard to political affiliation or wealth. But as Yogi Berra once said, it's deja vu all over again. It seems that overzealous Democrat prosecutors are once again waging political warfare for the benefit of the Democrat Party while protecting their own friends and persecuting their own enemies. The current situation that we find ourselves in as a country is untenable, it's unsalvageable, and it's corrupt, and it has to change. Hunter Biden, his entire story could have tilted the election should the American public have actually been aware of this damning revelation that there were subpoenas withheld, there was damning information regarding Hunter Biden's tax issues, and that he was under a criminal investigation. But what did the mainstream media do? They simply swept it underneath the rug. They called it Russian disinformation or some sort of conspiracy theory, yet we know now that it's all completely founded upon real facts and sound basis. So this is something that, unfortunately, we have dealt with as a country for the last 4 years, as Jenna did allude to. We've dealt with illegal spying on rival campaigns, impeachment hoaxes, now hundreds of American citizens rotting in prison in solitary confinement with no charges levied against them. American people are finally waking up to this situation. They do not think it's tenable. I go around this country quite frequently. I give a lot of talks, and this two-tier justice system and the perception of corruption within the institutions that we as Americans should revere and not fear is what keeps Americans up at night almost as much as immigration and their pocketbooks. It's very, very disturbing.
Staying on the Hunter Biden case here, I want to play for you what Senator Lindsey Graham said about getting a special prosecutor on this case after the 2020 election. Listen to this.
I'm absolutely calling on a special counsel to look at all things Hunter Biden, to see if he presents a conflict for the Biden administration regarding his business dealings in Ukraine, which is overrun with Russian agents, and any activity he had with the Chinese government.
All right, Hunter Biden, now newly acclaimed artist. Jenna Ellis, is this a good idea?
Well, the problem, of course, with the special investigators now is that it's so highly politicized that both parties are going to have interpretation of the evidence based on their own political preferences. And I think this is what's so frustrating for the American people, is that it seems that everything is so hyper partisan anymore that we're not just getting to the truth. And so while a special prosecutor and special counsel is supposed to be an unbiased investigator, we don't really see that happening. I mean, look at the Robert Mueller investigation. That was so hyper partisan. It was so absolutely ridiculous and riddled with lies that ultimately did come out. But as George mentioned, that was the basis for the first impeachment hoax. And so, while Lindsey Graham and others have valid points, I think, on some of these things, what we really need to do for 2022 and 2024 is to make sure that we get people in office who will themselves be citizen-led and actually do the will of the American people and have some of these oversight concerns, not only in Congress, but also on the state level as well, so that we can make sure to change these institutions from within.
You both mentioned Mueller, and so I have to go to George on this, because we're learning Republican Senators Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson, they're asking the Justice Department for more information after the department couldn't locate 59 of the 96 phones used by Robert Mueller's team back in 2018. As a target of the Mueller probe, George, what's your reaction to this, and will Americans get answers to these questions?
I think this is just another example of how corrupt the overzealous Democrat prosecutors were, who were also known as the special counsel's star team. People like Wiseman and Zelensky and some of these other folks that were interacting with myself and General Flynn, President Trump, trying to essentially overthrow his administration on complete nonsense and fake evidence, and essentially entrapping members of his campaign, and then looking to catch the president himself in an obstruction charge because he simply was fighting back against these fraudulent allegations that were levied against him, not only by the special counsel's team, but through the media as well. So I was not surprised at all to see that Mueller's team had wiped these phones. I was even more surprised, however, to see that members of the Senate do have a backbone. Patriots like Senator Grassley have decided to stand up for what was right and to get to the bottom of a lot of what was happening in 2015 and 2016, because so much of what happened back then with Mueller's team impacted the last midterms. They impacted this past election, and we do have a special counsel, John Durham, who is apparently investigating the origins of this entire scandal and people like Mueller and his team. So I think we just have to let this process play out. But I am happy to see, for optics purposes, that Senator Grassley is interested in finding out what exactly happened here.
All right, you sound optimistic. I know we are still waiting for the Durham report. It's been a long time coming. George Papadopoulos, Jenna Ellis, thank you both for your time tonight. Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.